Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Adasha Townsend, the Content Director of Food and Beverage Insider. So, are you familiar with Food and Beverage Insider? You guys familiar? Okay, I'm gonna get you more acquainted right now. So, it is one of the media brands for supply side. It is, we have Natural Products Insider, which is very supplement focused, and then we are food ingredients, everything you do before you get the actual product. So we could like to say head to hand. So all those things, so product development, food ingredients, the supply chain. And the actual brand, it consists of 10, I've got it written right here, 10 monthly thematic digital magazines, a daily website, which is foodbeverageinsider.com. We have 10 webinars, which are also thematic, goes throughout the year. Got to have both of you on them next year. And we also have in-person conversations like this one today. We also have a bunch of educational sessions that are going on, which Food and Beverage Insider sponsors. Now, I entitled this panel discussion Mission Possible because we're discussing purpose-driven brands today. It was important for my guests to build this into their concepts from day one. What I also love about them both is that their missions are not one-dimensional. Clarice Owens is a co-founder of Healthy Ocean Seafood Company. Her flagship product is Pescavore, a sustainable ahi tuna that is low sodium and zero sugar. One of her missions is to bring awareness of sustainability to underserved communities. Mark Washington, founder and CEO of Supergut, has been in this space for a number of years in leadership roles. Multicultural health disparities is one of the reasons why he launched Supergut, which are probiotic shakes in various flavors. Please give them both a warm welcome. Thank you.
Thunderous.
Okay, so let's first talk about these fabulous products that you both engineered. Let's go start with you, Clarice.
Okay, yes. So Pescavore is a 1.5 ounce single serve portion of ahi tuna jerky and 3 foodie forward and delicious flavors. We think they're delicious. Caribbean jerk, island teriyaki, and smoky pokey. We lead really with better for you attributes. So there are 14 to 15 grams of protein, 0 to 1 grams of carbs. Better for you, also better for the planet. We have a fully vertically integrated supply chain that's in California. So we source our tuna from an MSC certified fishery, small vessels, free school caught, one of the most environmentally sound ways to catch tuna on the planet. And we bring that tuna up the coast to our own processing plant here in Santa Cruz, well not here, but there in Santa Cruz, California. So we're taking very different approaches both to product and to supply chain with a real focus on making products that are better for people and planet too.
And Mark?
Cool. Yeah, hi. So I'm Mark. So the company is Supergut, and we are a gut-healthy nutrition brand. And so we make prebiotic-powered superfoods that are highly functional, both for digestion, but also for appetite control. But they also taste great as well. And so we have 3 different product lines. So we make prebiotic packed shakes, we make prebiotic snack bars, as well as we offer our prebiotic fiber blend as a standalone add to anything powder as well.
Okay. I love both of your products, and it's obviously you spent a lot of work with the actual concepts. But I also want to talk to you about why it was important to center multicultural health disparities in the mission for these products. Starting with you, Mark.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start actually with my why for starting the company, my inspiration. So, I love the space of health and wellness and love helping everyone feel healthier, but also felt like there was more that could be done. And a big part of why I started this company goes back to my sister, Monica. I think I might have shared this with you, who struggled with her health before passing away far too young, struggled with her weight, with diabetes, and other health issues. And that, lit a fire in me, right, to do something about it and to create a business that could have more of an impact, right? And so we have a pretty broad public health mission of trying to be part of a solution to impact public health as a whole. But specifically for me, a big part of that is I believe that we can play a role in closing some of the health disparity gaps that disproportionately impact minority communities. Because when you look across, all the health issues that we're plagued with as a society, from obesity to diabetes, heart disease, et cetera. You just go down the list. Every single one of them has a disproportionate impact on communities of color, right? And there's many different reasons why, but I'd like to be a part of the solution, right, to help close some of that gap. So it's something that, I take a lot of pride in as a brand and as a founder to have as an important aspect of our mission, not only public health broadly, but specifically, impacting our community and helping close some of those gaps.
Okay, Clarice, same question.
That's fantastic and admirable. Sorry for the loss.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So we started really from a point of selfish need. We really wanted to have seafood that was portable. Kind of discovered seafood that was portable in the middle of the Pacific. My partner is a fisheries person, and so I was traveling with him. We discovered this beautiful product, fish jerky, got home and wondered, why is this not in U.S. markets? And so we really started from a point of selfish need. We really wanted this product. Then as we started to kind of go down the rabbit hole and understand why this product wasn't in the marketplace, namely the really difficult features of processing seafood into something that's not only better for you and tasty, but also just fundamentally shelf stable. It's a very perishable protein. And then we started to understand some of the other public health issues around seafood specifically, namely that only 1 to 2 in every 10 Americans are eating their apportioned amount of USDA suggested seafood every week. So it should be 2 to 3. Only 1 to 2 Americans are meeting that. It's significantly less for young people who actually really love our product. And so that's very much engaged within our mission, is how do we make seafood more palatable, convenient, where people can feel less of a barrier or a burden to actually enjoy it and meet their health outcomes. We're kind of trending to the other side. So this is a beautiful product because it seems to be, I was looking at it online before I came here, and you have patents and it's highly formulated to meeting all of these different objectives. We're kind of coming from the other end, like what can we remove? And I know Mark doesn't have any of that nasty stuff in his products, but a lot of jerkies do. So you have nitrates, preservatives, things that are just fundamentally not good for you or for the environment in some cases. So we really look from the perspective of how much can we remove to make this a better, almost just single ingredient product.
I know that both of you are very much connected to your communities, and I want you to talk about how you get your products to your communities, and kind of, people are not, I know how people in our community are, and when they see fish jerky, they're thinking, I don't know about that. And the same thing with your product, Mark. They're thinking probiotics. They're like, what exactly is that? So how do you make that connection with people who are not used to these products in their community?
Want me to go first? Sure. Yeah. So a couple things, and I think you hit on an important point. Is while there's rising general interest around gut health, most people really aren't that clued in terms of why it matters or what it is or the difference between a probiotic, or we actually have prebiotics, right, in our product. And so more people are even more familiar with probiotics than prebiotics. And so there's a lot of an information gap, right, to explain sort of the background and why this is important for people. And so what we do is we focus a lot on education, but doing it in a approachable way, I should say. And we've actually evolved on this over time. I say when we first started out, we're like, we love this science. This science is so profound. Like, we've got to educate people and let's hit them over the head with clinical studies and patents and go deep into science. But I think we're missing the point that at the end of the day, it's got to be approachable and accessible, right?
Yes.
Somebody's got to be able to receive it on the other end. So we've actually, over time, sort of modulated that approach. And there's an educational bent, and there's a lot of science behind what we're doing, but we really focus on making it engaging, right, and entertaining. And so a lot of that communication, how we connect with consumers, comes through our content, right? And so we're really, really active. And that includes, on our site, but obviously it's largely in social media as well. And so we're very, very active, very intentional about putting out a lot of content that helps educate but entertain and engage folks. And then
how do you entertain them?
So good question. And so we've got a great head of marketing, and we work with a number of content creators that are pretty socially native, right? And that sort of take the genesis of the starting point of gut health and of prebiotics and appetite control, but then put an entertaining and engaging spin on it, whether it's sketches or things that people can just relate to and chuckle about, but they actually learn something at the same time, right? I mean, folks that are way better at it than I am, right? And so, but yeah, folks that are pretty native in terms of content creation are really excellent at it. We also work with, and even working more with the number of influencers as well. That, again, they're not getting deep into the science and the clinical studies, but we'll give them enough so that they understand prebiotics versus probiotics, and then they can run with that and create content that people can relate to. So social is a big part of how we do that, try to make it accessible through our site, through our blog, and through our newsletters as well. Just different ways that we can raise we think it's a good thing for the public, but also for us to raise about the collective awareness around functional foods, around gut health, around prebiotics, and frankly, a big benefit around appetite control. And like all of these things, how they impact your health in so many different ways. So we think it's an important thing for more people to be aware, and that as we do that, hopefully we are raising consideration for Supergut, right? That consumers are connecting us to this big important thing that they're hearing more and more about and just got a little bit more informed about, so that way when they're looking for a solution to do something about it, they will consider, us as one of the brands.
Okay. And Clarice, how are you making that connection?
Absolutely, yes. So we have an education hurdle for sure. That was already talked about. Most seafood literacy in this country is quite low. Some people have had bad experiences. Other people have seen, and unfortunately, increasing spate of misinformation about the sources of that there are basically all fisheries are bad, and that there aren't good fisheries, bad fisheries, and everything in between. So we really have an education piece on that front, which is challenging. In the same way, you don't want to hit anyone over the head or seem as though you might be disingenuous because you're saying these fisheries are good, and by the way, I'm sourcing from this fishery, so buy from it. So there's a really careful balance by being honest and transparent, and really also saying, here are the things that we have to work on, not just us, but global fisheries, and bringing awareness and education to that. But really, I mean, if you want to change the world using a product, your product had better taste good. Or people just don't want to hear it.
Always.
Yeah, always. And I see a lot of brands going into market with these very big stories that might engage people, but subpar products. So we spent like 5 years just making sure our product was right. And now it's really about getting in front of the consumer and getting it into their mouth. And so for us, we do rely heavily on social, but even like if they see it on social, they're like, well, that's different, but what does it taste like? That's what everyone wants to know. So for us, it's unfortunately an expensive way to get in front of your consumers, to just be at these trade shows consistently. Wherever your consumer is where you need to be. And we have some great partners like REI's Path Ahead Ventures. We have a very health-oriented and outdoor consumer, so they're helping us to engage with these people at marathons and bike races and whitewater rafting. So these are like hyperactive users. But as we start to move into we're already in Target, as we move broader into Target's market base and Walmarts of the world, we'll have to be very creative as to how we, get people to try the product.
Did you want to say something, Mark?
Yeah, I was actually going to ask a question, if that's okay, because one of the things that we haven't really leaned into yet, but I think is going to be more important as we try to increase exposure and trial, and especially because we are only direct to consumer, but we're about to go into retail, is sampling, right? And just, it's come up multiple times, just the importance of getting your products in consumers' hands and doing events, right? Races, kind of farmers markets, things of that nature. And I'm curious kind of what your experience has been, and then how do you measure if they're effective or not, right? Because it's something we've been thinking about quite a bit, but we have limited resources and time. So I'm like, how much do I put into that versus these other things? And so that's one of the things I think holding me back is, can you actually tell whether or not those kind of sampling events are actually working? I'm curious what your experience is.
So we're fortunate to work with a very experienced sales group that helped to build a brand very similar to ours before they exited. So they measure it with a brand development index in the community that you're in. And so when we started, we didn't know. We just kind of sensed, hey, let's go to these events and see how it's going. And then when we brought them on board, they're able to actually target, this is your brand development index in this community. And we're seeing it over-indexing in places that we've been. So that's a very direct one-to-one. I was there, and now my brand development index is higher. But I would say be very cautious. You know, like you want to go to, I don't know, triathlon, the most famous triathlon in the world. They want a $30,000 sponsorship.
That's an easy decision.
No.
Yeah.
So always look for free, always look for, and you'll also find that your most engaged customer is just not even there. So, you know, look for retailers who will allow you to stand in their aisle next to your product. And I think you guys are riding a wave early in its cycle because like Olipop just built a huge brand on prebiotic.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
you're in the bar category. I don't think I've seen that in the bar category.
It has not. That's where we are. That's
You're
for us.
riding away.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks. Yeah.
Sorry.
So, hey, yeah, I'm here too.
Oh, yeah.
So, sorry. That's okay, girl. So, talk about the flavor profiles, because I know that has a lot to do with setting you both of your products apart in the industry. So, talk about yours first, Mark.
Yeah. So Clarissa actually mentioned this. I think it's a really, really important topic that some don't pay enough attention to. I'd say especially those that are on the more functional side tend to just think about function and that, you know, they'll eat it, they'll hold their nose, right? Because it's good for you. And that just doesn't work, right? Over time, like maybe somebody will try it, but you know, especially if you do have a mission or an aspiration around, you know, having an impact and having a health impact, the only way to do that is if you can convince someone to consume your product again and again and again, right? So it becomes more of a habit. And you know, based on my experience and belief, the only way to do that is if it's something that people actually enjoy, right? And I think taste is at the top of that list. That not enough emphasis is put on that. And so, in a similar vein, like we didn't take 5 years, right, to develop, but we spent a lot of the upfront work on the functional side, on the science. But we had, I'd say, a working prototype of our shake product literally within a couple months. Like after we really got down, because we knew some great, suppliers, we had some great vendors we're working with. But it literally took us the next year to iterate and test and refine to get to a flavor profile that we liked, right?
Okay.
Because
What are those flavors?
it was so important. So we have, we offer for our shakes, we have 6 different flavors. We have chocolate and vanilla and a mocha latte, a strawberry, and then we've got a couple vegan flavors, a vegan chocolate, a vegan vanilla. And then we have 3 flavors of our bars as well. Chocolate, peanut butter chocolate, and a strawberry almond, which is this one.
Strawberry what?
Strawberry almond. This one's yours. You
Okay,
can
yes,
have this.
bring it.
But yeah, for each one of those iterations, it was like, it's not good enough to just be okay tasting, right? I made it really hard on, my head of R&D was like, listen, we've got this nailed, this thing works, and it tastes better than most other shakes that are out there. And I was like, that's not the bar, right? I mean, the bar is something that people would consume even if it wasn't that healthy for you, right? And so we went through that in consumer sensory panels. I'm a pretty harsh judge myself, but then we also had, external and some experts as well to weigh in on the flavor profile. So we went through that with our shakes, and then we followed a similar process with our bars as well. Like as we were going through it, just to make sure that they weren't just functional, but they hit that taste profile that we felt was as good as, if not better, the tasting than any other bars out there, even though most bars out there are chocked with sugar and aren't very good for you health-wise. So I was like, that's the competition, so to speak, right? That's the expectation from a consumer. So we need to make sure our products can hold, a taste profile as good as, if not better than them, even though this is highly functional products. So.
Okay. Clarice, can you talk about how your flavor profiles have played a significant role in your product as well?
Sure, absolutely. So we came from a very different, so my husband and partner is in fisheries. I'm an aerospace engineer by training, and I was working actively in my
Look at
career.
Mark, you're like, what?
You're like, wow. Exactly.
I saw your background too, Mark.
That's
so
impressive.
that's pretty impressive.
Nothing to do with food, though.
Right.
So we actually didn't know many of these resources existed. In fact, Mark was like, wow, you've never been to supply side? No. And just 2 weeks ago, I was at Matson Food Innovation Labs, where I'm seeing some of our competitors who have fully designed their products using an external party. And I was like, I didn't even know you could do that.
Wow.
That was not part of our paradigm. And we were also a young, broke brand.
Right.
So for us, it was like, that's part of the reason that it took so long. We were very much working with other experts who in the fisheries and the smoking industry, but who don't have so much engagement in the consumer packaged goods industry. but know a whole lot about fish. And so we kind of merged that with my love of cooking. If we expand out of these 3 SKUs, which took forever, we will certainly need to use the resources that are around us in the ecosystem, and folks like Mark, who have just been here forever, if you really want to stomp the accelerator and go. And it's honestly one of the reasons we've not expanded outside of what we know is great in 5 years, because we're kind of at that point where we need to do it well, and won't go to market without doing it well.
Talk about the flavor profiles.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, those are pretty good.
Yeah, so we have Caribbean jerk, smoky pokey.
Wait to try that one.
Yeah, and island teriyaki. I have some for everyone in the room if you'd like to try it. It was interesting when you start to use names like Caribbean and poke, which is poke actually means small chopped fish in Hawaii. Now you're getting into other people's culture, and you want to make sure that you're not appropriating their culture. In fact, like there's a big movement right now for culture forward brands, and I'm really glad that you put this here, because a lot of the rhetoric that's coming with these culture forward brands is not coming from the communities that own those ingredients and have nurtured many of those profiles over generations, if not centuries. And so we were trying to be very respectful of that when we're describing it on the on our web page, and trying to give, and also just like not using symbols from their culture, and really just focusing on the flavors themselves, and also having to be sensitive that I know Hatch chili is really popular, and Botch, this is Scottish bonnet pepper from Jamaican jerk, is quite popular, but you can't really put that in someone's mouth because it might not work, right? It's too spicy.
Exactly.
So some people are like, this isn't like Caribbean jerk. And we're like, well, we didn't want to get a lawsuit for for hurting you. So it's kind of this delicate balance, and especially with the macros being so great, we can't lead too much on flavor, because those two things don't usually go together.
Okay. Whether it's a larger major company or a small business, why is it important for companies to have a purpose beyond making money and selling units?
Yeah. So this is something I'm pretty passionate about, and it somewhat just goes back to why I started the company as well. And I'd say this topic has taken on another level for me as a startup, right? As an entrepreneur, relative to executive roles that I've had in the past. Because passion, purpose, and vision, right? Those give you a sense of direction, right? A moral compass, a guiding light to point north, which rallies not just you as the executive, but the entire team. So it's important in any context or environment. But I think, especially as an early stage startup, I think they take on an even greater importance, right? To have that mission alignment and that purpose, because as an early stage, it's really hard. Right? I mean, and you fight through battles on a day-by-day basis. And so many so that I feel like if we didn't have like that broader purpose that we are aligned around, I think I and my team would have given up on this thing a long time ago. There's a lot of easier things to do out there where you can collect a paycheck, et cetera. But I think that rallying cry of having this broader purpose, and knowing for us, having this sense of an aspiration of having this positive impact on public health broadly, and then actually seeing that come through from consumers who are using our product consistently, and seeing that we can actually make a change in their lives, that is like a rallying cry for us. Like that is the kind of thing that gets us going to fight through some of the hardest days, because at the same time we've got supply issues, or we've got issues over here of fundraising or what have you, right? But having that rallying cry, that sense of purpose, is something that we collectively get behind and keeps us going, and it adds to that resilience, which I think is really important, especially again as an early stage company.
Clarice?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with all of that. And my partner started his career in the Peace Corps and has worked in sustainable fisheries for the entirety of his career. And prior to this, I came from sustainable energy. So those values are certainly within us. But what I'm really appreciating since COVID is that the market is really responding to that as well. So if you on the History Channel, there's this biography that talks about the food that built America, and their values were very disparate from a healthy, thriving planet and healthy, thriving oceans. They were really trying to industrialize the food system, and we've seen directly how that has really sickened human beings. I think it's like a $4 trillion industry for healthcare, which is, so it's 800 billion being invested, and they have a $4.3 trillion profit, basically, which is just insane. And so we're seeing the market really shift itself toward understanding that if you don't adopt these values, you're really setting your business toward oblivion, because consumers won't accept it, the planet won't accept it, and so it's almost becoming table stakes. And that's where capital is flowing toward a greener, cleaner planet. So if you're selfishly interested, no one is funding, well, a few people, but not a lot of people are funding the next cereal brand that doesn't have any better for you or better for the planet attributes.
What are you two working on now? Anything that you're working on dealing with community-focused, mission-based aspects or new products?
Yeah. So a couple of things for us. One is around distribution, right? I mean, so one of the big aspects for us as a business to continue to grow and succeed, as well as to make our products as accessible as possible, right, is building distribution. And so that's a big part of our focus, is expanding from our direct consumer roots and to an omni-channel brand. And so that includes Amazon as a first step, but the next step for us is physical retail, which we're finally launching kind of over the next couple of months. So that's one big one. I'd say a second one, which is kind of related back to this public health mission, is it goes back to some around communication and education. So there's a lot of talk these days around, pharmaceuticals, and their impact on health, and in particular, the weight loss drugs, like Ozempic and other GLP-1s, which are just, becoming part of the consumer lexicon these days. I think it's an important thing for us to note from the health and food standpoint, as well as understanding them, kind of what they do, how they work, and its impact on health and its impact on the food system as well. Like, I actually see this, I'm not anti-medicine, I'm just pro-food, right? And so, like, we're trying to position ourselves as, a healthy and natural, either alternative or complement to someone who might be considering a more pharmaceutical-driven approach to, in this case, control appetite and lose weight. I think it's just really important for people to understand that there are other ways, right? And that nature has figured a lot of this out, and that even if you're considering using, one of these drugs that are very, very effective at what they do, there's also important ways to even sustain those results long term, and it's actually based in nature, right? And it's largely back to prebiotics and the gut health, et cetera. And so we're spending a lot of time educating, communicating, and a lot of the orientation of our content is just around this food as medicine as either an alternative or a complement to some of these, exploding kind of weight loss drugs that are hitting the scene now.
Okay.
It's fascinating.
Clarice?
Yeah, so for us, we're still in our very early life cycle, although we've been around for a long time. We're in about 1,500 doors. We focused on physical retail because we didn't have the supply chain to support DTC in the beginning. I wish we did, because it's a fantastic way to really establish consumer.
I want to be in 1,500 doors, so we can change the notes.
Yeah, we can't exchange notes. It's harder today because of iOS 14 changes.
Yeah,
so we have a lot of
yes, for
timely benefits, and retailers are responding to your online presence as a condition of accepting this.
True,
so you're advantaged for sure.
True.
So we're really in survival mode. Like, we want to be here a year from now, and so it's a careful balance for us. There are certainly new SKUs that we'd like to work on that have social and environmental impact, but we also are running our plant every day. So we need to scale our distribution yesterday and reduce our costs and really just prove that in addition to being a sustainable and responsible business, we're also sustainable from a cash flow perspective and, attractive for investment and all of these things that every early stage brand is dealing with every single day.
Fantastic. I wish you both the most success. Thank you very much.
Thank
Are there any questions from our cute little panel? I mean, our cute little audience. We have a nice little intimate audience. Any questions? Okay.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate it. Okay, I guess we're going to wrap this up.
Awesome.
So again, I thank you, Clarice and Mark, for joining us. Really appreciate it and enjoy your supply side experience.
Absolutely.
Thank you so
Thanks so much for having us today.
Thank
Thank you, everyone.